News at 5 starts now.
Good evening. We're following new developments tonight in an unsolved case from 15 years ago where a man who was shot at a nightclub in 2004 recently died from his gunshot wound.
Now police may reopen the case since officials are calling the man's death a homicide. 23 ABC's Tori Cooper joins us in studio with what's next. Tori?
Tim and Jessica, according to the Kern County Coroner's Office, 50-year-old John Christopher Thompson died this February, nearly 15 years ago to the day, from a gunshot wound in 2004. Today, his case deemed a homicide by the coroner, and law enforcement officials say they are now taking a second look into the case.
Police say John Thompson was shot in the early morning hours of February 29, 2004 at the Old Elks Lodge nightclub on East California Avenue. Thompson was taken to the hospital but recovered from his injuries and returned home. The investigation continued for several months after the shooting to find the person responsible, but the case eventually fell cold, according to Sergeant Nathan McCulley of BPD.
They exhausted all investigative leads they had at that point, and the case was closed.
Then on February 28th of this year, Thompson died. Today, the coroner's office ruling his death a homicide, saying he died as a result of his gunshot wound.
Based on their examination of Mr. Thompson, who died in February of 2019, 15 years after this incident, that based on their examination that they believe that the manner of death was a homicide caused by complications related to those gunshot wounds.
Thompson's family members and BPD confirmed with 23 ABC News that 50-year-old Thompson was found dead in his home in East Bakersfield. According to McCulley, besides Thompson, 5 other people were also shot at the nightclub, which burned down in 2017. Now BPD says since Thompson's death has been ruled a homicide, they are taking a second look at the case.
We will now obviously review our own case and look to see what, if anything else, a lot of criminal investigative techniques can change in 15 years, and this might be something that we might have something to change and take another look at it, see if there is a chance for any kind of further investigative follow-up.
McCulley says there is no statute of limitation in a case of murder, even if the victim dies 15 years later. If BPD ultimately decides to reopen the case after reviewing it and is able to generate a suspect, then the case would be referred over to the district attorney's office for first-degree murder charges, a case the DA's office says would need substantial evaluation.
But we'd have to spend a lot of time going over medical records and history and find out if the cause of death really was related to that event that happened so long ago.
But Joe Kinzel of the DA's office says this is not an entirely uncommon circumstance by any means.
Because there have been a lot of medical advancements that people can stay alive a lot longer even after being dealt fatal injuries.
He says in order to convict someone, the prosecutor would have to prove in court that the gunshot wound was Thompson's cause of death 15 years later.
And that's something we want to be sure of before we started moving forward.
Now, Thompson's grandmother says he was living with her and had health problems after the shooting, but she was shocked by the coroner's report and didn't believe the gunshot wound is what killed her grandson. She is now requesting the full coroner's report. But for now in studio, I'm Tori Cooper for 23 ABC News, connecting you.